Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 85 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. How are you?
Very good, my friend. Very good. Right, we're going to dive straight into part one. Part one starting with the reviewing from last weekend. We're going to start with a card that took place last Friday at the Motorpoint Arena in Cardiff, Wales. Two fights really to mention on the bill. I will just give a little honourable mention there to Chantel Cameron. She looked pretty good. She got a win over Karina Kopinska, who's obviously an ex-opponent of Katie Taylor. So it was good to see that. She did pretty well on her pro debut. But no, the two fights that I was going to mention there, Craig Kennedy, 16-0 going into this fight against Matty Askin. Craig Kennedy pretty much untested domestically, but he looked to be quite good. And I said it on last week's show, if he was to win that fight, then he really becomes the top man domestically, at cruiserweight. You'd have to put him just underneath or just around the same kind of level of Bob Ajasaf, maybe just in that kind of mix. He obviously took on a guy who you'd have to say is pretty much the best domestically, Matty Askin, who was 21-3 with one draw. So Craig Kennedy, we thought he could possibly get the win here, but it was not to be. He was brutally knocked out in round 6. It was pretty hefty knockout, to be honest there. So Matty Askin stamps his authority. He moves to 22 wins, 3 losses and 1 draw. And Craig Kennedy gets his first blemish. It was for the vacant British Cruiserweight title, that one. So Matty Askin picks that up. Also on the bill, top of the bill really, Andrew Selby took on Christopher Rosales. And I said it was some kind of eliminator for the WBC flyweight title. I think it was a final eliminator, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, Andrew Selby, I think he started the fight a little bit nervous, and I can't really blame him for that. He did say just before the fight that this kid has been giving him nightmares. The guy was only 22, but he was tough as they come. Andrew Selby was down in the first round, and I thought, wow, what's all that about? It was weird. He went down, and everybody just kind of went silent, and the referee wasn't straight away on it to give the count. So it looked a bit like, was it a slip? What was it? And rightly so, the referee started the count, and he got up. He didn't really look hurt too much, and he ultimately got the job done over 12 rounds. I think the scorecards were a little bit wide in my opinion, but no, Andrew Selby did what he does. I always talk about his footwork. His footwork's absolutely tremendous, and it was a good fight. It was the best fight, the most competitive fight that we've seen him in. But, Christopher Rosales obviously came to the table relatively unknown, but he goes back now to South America with a record of 23-3. Andrew Selby keeps his unbeaten record intact. He's now 9-0, and it looks like he's going to be fighting for a title in the near future, absolutely. But no, I think Rosales put up a good effort. He's only 22, and, it was, I don't know, you can kind of get the measuring stick out. He did take on Cal Yafai, so there's that to look at. But it is what it is. Styles make fights, and the rest. But that's it for Cardiff, Wales. Moving over now to the Boca Raton Hotel and Club in USA. This one, there is one fight to mention on this bill. I just wanted to really give just this one fight a mention. The Olympian, the Chinese Olympian Zhilei Zhang, 15-0. He's a southpaw. He moved to 16-0 with a TKO in round 1 against Curtis Harper. Curtis Harper, probably the hardcores might remember his name. Curtis Harper gave Chris Arreola a real life and death fight a couple years back. So that's really why we gave him a mention there. That's a good win there for Zhilei Zhang. Moving over now from the USA to another part of the USA in Chicago, Illinois. One fight to mention on this bill. Two fights to mention on this bill. Mike Mile High Alvarado moved to 37 wins. He he's obviously seen better days. He's got 4 losses on his resume as well. He took on Matthew Strode and he picked up an impressive TKO victory in the second round over Matthew Strode. So good win there for Mike Alvarado. And also on that bill, making his second pro appearance, Michael Conlan moved to 2-0 with a TKO in round 3 against Alfredo Chanez, who had a record of 4-4. Chanez was also down in the first round, so decent little win there for Michael Conlan. Moving over now to Mexico, one fight to mention over here. Orlando Salido picked up his 44th career win against Arcides Perez, who had a record of 30-9, now 30-10 with 2 draws. It was a strange one. Perez retired in his corner at the end of the 7th round, but in Mexico, it's funny because if you retire on your stool, the referee still counts you out. So he retired and the referee still gave a count while he was sitting on his stool and counted him out. So I'm not sure why they do that, but it is what it is. Orlando Salido picks up the win. It's a stoppage win, of course. And I heard he didn't look too impressive doing it. I didn't see the full fight. I've seen a couple of clips, but nonetheless, we thought we'd give it a mention there. Moving over now from Mexico to the big one last weekend at Bramall Lane Football Ground, Sheffield, Yorkshire, United Kingdom. We're going to start with the undercard. We're going to start with a couple of fights. I'm just going to whiz through a couple of fights that we're not going to really talk too much about. Lawrence Okoli picked up another first round knockout. It was scheduled for 4 rounds at cruiserweight, but he didn't need those rounds. He moves to 3-0 now. Again, he was supposed to take on Russell Henshaw. That fight didn't happen. He ended up taking on Rudolf Helasic, who was actually unbeaten in 2 contests as well. So both men were 2-0 going into that. Lawrence Okoli came out the victor. His opponent was down twice in that first round. Joe Cordina moved to 3-0. He picked up a stoppage actually in the first round. His opponent retired at the end of round 1. It was a strange one. The less said, the better, really, on that one. But moving over now to the other fight, a man that was making his debut on this card, the pro debut of Anthony Fowler. He picked up a TKO in round 1. So all 3 Olympians picking up first round stoppages here. Anthony Fowler's one was, it was a bit strange, really. He actually hit his opponent while he was down. But I will say this about Anthony Fowler. I think that Anthony Fowler, I really think it was definitely accidental. I think there's no, there's no way he did that on purpose. And straight after the fight, in the post-fight interview, he did actually acknowledge that it was a foul. It was a foul. It was a shot that, is an illegal shot. But it was weird because he put him down and then hit him when he was down. And then obviously the guy went on his back kind of thing, and the referee didn't give it a count, didn't take a point away, didn't disqualify anything. He just let him get back up, brushed off his gloves, and basically forgot about the knockdown. So it was weird, but he did end up getting to him later that round, so he gets the stoppage win there, Anthony Fowler. But that's it for that one. Moving up the bill, Atif Shafiq picked up his 17th win. He's got 2 losses on the record as well. He picked up a points win over 4 rounds against Dean Evans. Also on the bill, Andy Townend. He actually opened up the show on the live Sky Sports box office telecast. He picked up the TKO in round 2 against John Case. John Case has seen better days, but Andy Townend, we obviously know he failed to make the weight, so the belt wasn't on the line for him. It was the vacant Commonwealth title. But no, Andy Townend actually, he started the card with a good knockout, and he looked pretty good in that fight. Obviously, he's going to now be moving up in weight, but no, good little win there for him. And John Kay's now 22-6 with 1 draw. Andy Townend 19-4. Also on the bill, Jamie Cox, his first fight with Matchroom. He went into the fight with a record of 21-0, took on Lewis Taylor, 19-3 with 1 draw. It was for the vacant WBA Continental Super Middleweight title. Taylor was cut in an accidental head clash. I can't remember what round it was, but it was quite early, if I'm not mistaken. And Jamie Cox looked a little bit overeager, a little bit desperate. He wanted to try and make a statement on that card there. And I think he wasn't fighting with the right game plan, to be honest. Again, his head was going in a little bit too much for most people's likings. He was doing pretty well, but some of the rounds, I don't think he was making it hard for himself. That's what I will say. he was definitely making it hard for himself, and it was a close-ish fight. I think he was probably winning at the time of the technical decision, obviously, because the cut got bad and the doctor stopped it in that 9th round, so it went down to the scorecards, which Jamie Cox was ahead. I can't remember the scorecards, but I thought he was ahead, to be honest. But no, Lewis Taylor gave a good account of himself. He's obviously very tough as well. But Jamie Cox really wants to be on that world level, so maybe it was a fight. I don't know. I say he was over-eager. He was really trying to impress. Maybe it's just a fight where he thought, look, this guy's got no chance against me, and I'm going to take him lightly. It could have been either one. But we do like Jamie Cox, so we're going to wish him all the very best for the future. He now moves to 22-0, and as I said, he really does want to be in there with some of the bigger boys in the division. No disrespect to Lewis Taylor. Also on the bill for the vacant Commonwealth heavyweight title, Dave Allen went into this fight against Lenroy Thomas. We didn't really know too much about him apart from he was from Jamaica. He was a southpaw. He was a sparring partner for some of the top guys in the division, including Anthony Joshua. Dave Allen went into the fight with a record of 11-2 with 1 draw. Lenroy Thomas was 20-4. Now, this fight in times was a little bit hard to score. Lenroy Thomas looked good when he was jabbing with that southpaw jab, but he neglected it most of the time for me. He stood square on a little bit too much, which resulted in him being hit a lot. He showed a bit of speed in bursts, but not enough of it. Sometimes he would also start the rounds really slow and then come alive in the last minute and a half to probably try and steal the round. I think that perhaps played a part in some of the judging ultimately at the end of the fight. I don't know, he kept fighting really good in bursts, but he wasn't active enough for me. Dave Allen was a little bit one-dimensional. He needs to be a lot lighter as well for future fights. And Dave Allen kept leaning on him and even went in with a head at one point. A point was taken in the 8th round, which could have been crucial in that fight, to be honest. The point was taken away from Lenroy Thomas, so I thought that, to be honest, that really could swing the fight in Dave Allen's favour. But no, I think Dave Allen was a little bit fortunate to not get a point took away from him. I think that, as I said, he definitely needs to be lighter. He was way, way, way too heavy. And I know that he took that fight serious, but he was quite a lot heavier than Lenroy Thomas. Dave Allen kept making the most of the low blows. There was quite a few going in there from Lenroy Thomas. I suppose you can't really blame him for making the most of that. But no, there was a lot of leaning. There was no point taken. I was a little bit gutted to see Dave Allen lose. He's a friend of the show. I didn't score the fight, but I felt that he won it. But I've got to be honest, as much as I love Dave Allen, and that goes without saying, the amount of times we've had him on the show and that, but I did stick £1 on Lenroy Thomas to win on points 40 seconds into the first round. I just fancied it. I saw a tiny burst of skill inside the first 40 seconds and the snappy jab at first. And whether that is because I've got an eagle eye of boxing or it was just pure luck is something I do not know. But obviously it went down as a split decision in the end. And 2 judges gave it to Lenroy Thomas, which means he won the fight. But it was a good fight. I've got to say, both men were really, really great afterwards. They both showed a lot of sportsmanship. I'm gutted for Dave Allen, but it was a strange situation. I believe that Lenroy Thomas hasn't seen his mother for about 20 years. He's going to return back to Jamaica with the Commonwealth strap. And also he revealed that he was working in KFC a year ago. And Dave Allen, obviously a big fan, famously, of KFC, so that was a little bit ironic there. But no, nonetheless, best of luck to both guys. Really tremendous fellas outside the ring, it would show in that post-fight interview, so they both definitely deserve the very best for the future. Dave Allen now 11-3 with 1 draw, a record that's not looking too great, to be completely honest, on paper. And Lenroy Thomas, 21 wins and 4 losses. Also on the bill, George Groves took on Fedor Chudanov, and I'm not going to lie, I did put £5 on Fedor Chudanov to win on points. I was just a little bit worried about the fact he'd been out the ring for quite a while. It was for the vacant WBA Super World Super Middleweight title, so it's not the silly regular thing, it's not the interim, it was the full belt there on the line. Firstly, Ayaz, I'm going to come over to you about this fight. What did you make of George Groves and Fedor Chudanov?
I'll tell you something, right? In last week's show, I did say, I'm gonna go with Groves win, and that happened. But I went for a points one. And I'll tell you something, right? I thought in the first 2 rounds, right, Chudanov was really harsh on Groves. He was pushing him back and Groves was starting slow. And obviously, as the rounds progressed, Groves went on and won the fight by knockout. It was a knockout, and obviously this is the fourth time that Groves had a title shot, and he's finally done it. He's lost obviously twice to Carl Froch, one by stoppage, the other one by knockout. He lost to Jack on points, and now he's finally actually won a world title by beating Chudinov. I remember watching the fight, right, and Carl Froch actually stood up and started clapping for his ex-enemy, which is George Groves. And to tell you something now that Groves has won a world title, he's going to be getting some big fights coming down the line. Hopefully, like, if DeGale fight, there could be a DeGale fight down the line in a unification. If Callum Smith beats Anthony Durrell, that could be a unification. But I tell you something, now Groves has won a world title, he's going to be at the top.
Yeah, he certainly is. He's got a big profile along with the belt now. So, it kind of makes me think I'm not sure if the DeGale fight will happen because, they couldn't see eye to eye. Because I think that George Groves was maybe asking a little bit too much when he didn't have a belt. Well, now he's got a belt. He's going to surely be asking even more. So I'm not sure the fight will happen, but it'd be nice to see it. My thoughts on the fight. Firstly, George was being backed up a lot. He was on the back foot. Chudinov was being pretty much his usual self. He's pretty basic, but he's very effective at what he does. I actually had it 1-1 after 2 rounds. I gave him a round apiece. In the 3rd round, I gave it to Groves. In the 4th round, I gave it to Groves, so it was 3-1. And in the 5th round, I gave it a 10-10 round. I think both guys, did pretty well in that 5th round there. And I think that Groves was even showing early signs of fatigue. That's what I initially thought in that 5th round. In the 6th round, Chudinov took a lot of punishment. He couldn't really defend the right hook at all. He was just getting hit with that at will, if you like. He became a bit of a sitting duck as well. He didn't go down though. He definitely showed some grit, some toughness there, and we know that he's like that. He is tough as nails, just like his brother, but he wasn't throwing back. So I initially watched it and I thought it was a tiny bit premature, but I can't argue with the stoppage because he was not throwing back. So it was one of them ones where he was weathering the storm because he was taking the shots. He wasn't, he didn't go down. He didn't look like he was going to be going down. He didn't really look too troubled by it. But then it's like, can you really blame the referee? If he's not answering back, you can't really blame him. But it would have been interesting if they did let it go on. Because I thought, as I said, that the round earlier, I thought that Groves looked a little bit tired there because it was a very fast-paced fight. And I'd like to see what would have happened after that big combination, that big flurry. I think he was throwing shots for something like 50 seconds that were unanswered. So you can't really blame the referee, to be honest. But I just don't know what he would have had left after that. And let's be fair, we don't really know what Chudinov would have had left. But it definitely would have been interesting. But no, I think you can't really argue with a stoppage, to be honest. But a good win there for George Groves. I'm very, very happy for him. He's he's a good fighter, man. But that's one of those fights, as you predicted Groves to win. I predicted Chudinov. I went against the grain, and it didn't pay off. So the scoreboards now, the prediction league now, is 5 to me and 4 to you. So the gap's closed a little bit there. It's definitely closing up. You're definitely catching up with me. Hopefully not for too long. So Groves is now 26-3. He's the new WBA Super Middleweight Champion. Fedor Chudinov 14-2, and his first legitimate loss on his record, because we all know what happened in the Felix Sturm situation. Also, going over to the top of the bill now, Kell Brook, 36-1, coming off of that loss to Golovkin, coming down 2 weight classes to defend his title. He didn't run. He proved everybody and all the doubters wrong. He was going to stand there and he was going to defend his title proudly, as he should do, to be honest. But no, I was really happy with him taking this fight. I was proud of him, and he got in there against a relatively unknown guy, a guy that has stopped some people that really had no right to stop them. And he was definitely looking the goods. We've heard a lot about Errol Spence, but he'd never showed it on the big stage under the lights, and he'd never been on the road as well. But he came over here and did the business. He moves to 22-0. Kell Brook now 36-2. Obviously, we're going to talk about the fight right now. I'm going to start with you, Ayaz. A crazy fight. It was one where there was many rounds that were very, very hard to score. I definitely saw the fight a lot different from a lot of other people did when when the fight ended and I was asking people what they thought about it. What did you make of the fight?
what a fight it was. I'll tell you something, right? Before the fight, yeah, Errol Spence Jr. was coming in as the favourite, and obviously the champion, which was Kell Brook, ex-world champion, Kell Brook was coming in as an underdog. Now, before the fight, right, everyone was saying, you know, you could vacate this belt and go up to 154 and fight a little bit light middle, but Kell Brook's like, no, I want to fight 147 pound, which is the welterweight division. Now, this fight, I'll tell you something, right? From the start, right, Kell Brook was performing very good with that jab, and obviously you can tell, but he's got some powerful punches. But as he kept jabbing him, and Errol Spence did trip up a couple of times. But apparently, according to Errol Spence in the interview, he said that none of his punches hurt. None of Kell Brook's punches hurt him. But come towards the fifth round, after the fifth round, Errol Spence was hitting him with a couple of clean shots. But after the fifth round, that's when Errol Spence got into the rhythm and was hitting Brook a lot. And towards the seventh, eighth round, I remember seeing Brook in an interview he was saying, "Oh yeah, I can see my eye going." And you can tell that was like the Golovkin one. It's like the Golovkin scenario. And what is with Errol Spence, like if you look at his previous fights when he fought Chris Algieri, Leonard Bundy, Chris Van Herven, what he does, he hits them with the body. He goes for the body a lot, and that's what he was doing with Kell Brook. And obviously, what's happened in that he was jabbing him, hitting him with left hooks, and then he was going for the body. Come the 10th round, he's hit Kell Brook, and Kell Brook's just dropped to the floor, and that's when he's been dropped. And you can tell he was going for the face as well, because when Kell Brook's, Errol Spence even said that, he goes, when Kell Brook was touching his eye, that's when they knew something was going wrong, and then that's when Errol Spence jumped on him and was going for the eye in that. And then obviously come towards the 11th round, when Errol Spence went towards him, Kell Brook dropped on his knee. Now, a lot of people have advised him that he's a quitter, but in my opinion, I wouldn't say that he's a quitter. Now, the thing is, obviously in boxing, your eyes are the most important thing. Now, if you look at a lot of people, for example, have gone blind from fighting, obviously, in my opinion, I wouldn't call him a quitter, because his eye was in... If you've seen Golovkin fight, his right eye was gone. He was finished. In the Spence fight, he's broken his eye socket, but it's on the left eye. Now, for me, yeah, I reckon Johnny Nelson and that have said it as well. It was that his body couldn't hack welterweight. That's why he was slowing down. If he was a 154 fighter, he'll be more powerful. He would have enough speed as well. So I reckon, in my opinion, Errol Spence did brilliant. He shocked the world, right? He did say before the pre-fight conference, he said, "I'm coming to knock you out," and that's my he said, "I promise I'll knock you out," and he actually did that.
Yeah, I mean, the fight there were many rounds that was very hard to score. You know, the American viewers seemed to have it one way, the British viewers seemed to have it another way. We can understand that, you know, we're both kind of pulling for our men. We're not meaning to be biased, but there probably was a bit of that going on. I've got my scorecard in front of me, so I'm going to tell you guys that in a moment. Firstly, it's a fact that Brook, or not just Brook, but fighters that are coming down in weight, especially 2 weight classes to fight, usually tire late. Okay, so that is a fact. However, Errol Spence, as you rightly said, Ayaz, was investing in those body shots early on in the fight. So that could have played a part. That could have slowed him down. It could have been a bit of both. Okay, so we're going to give Errol Spence a lot of credit there. We didn't know, even though he came in with the nickname The Truth, we didn't actually know if he was the truth. But I think now we do know he is the truth. He is the real deal. He's a phenomenal fighter, and he proved a lot of people wrong, because we were very sure. Me and yourself, Ayaz, we both predicted Brook to win, probably on points, and you know, it could have been a fact that he was getting tired from coming down in weight. It could have been a fact that those body shots that Errol Spence had put in the bank early played a part. It could have just been that the eye came and he got a bit worried about the eye, and that was that. It could have been many, many things. I'm sure we're not really going to find them out, but we know that the injury was the same injury that he sustained against Golovkin, but it was in the other eye. So he's got a broken eye socket in his left eye now, and he also had one in the last fight in his right eye. So when you know, I mean, his eyeball had to come out to get that, you know, to get that eye sorted. They actually had to take his eye out. So maybe that's playing on his mind. You just don't know. So I'm sure we're not going to find out. But, you know, it made for a great fight while it lasted. Here is how I scored it. I gave the first round to Brook. I think he started quite well. I gave the second round to Spence. I think that was a clear Spence round in my opinion. So I had it 1-1 after 2. I gave the third and 4th to Brook. So I had it 3-1 after 4 for Brook. In the 5th, I actually gave it a 10-10 round. And that is where a lot of people maybe don't agree with me. In the 6th, I gave it to Brook as well. And then from there, the 7th, 8th and 9th, I gave to Errol Spence, which made it a draw after 9 rounds. And then in round 10, Brook comes out, obviously got knocked down in that round, so Spence gets a 10-8 round. So Spence was 2 points up on my scorecard. So Brook would need to come out and win the 11th round and 12th round just to give it a draw. Okay, and I think I was being pretty fair there to Brook. A lot of people may have not. I might have been a little bit lenient. I don't know. I haven't really seen other people's scorecards. I've just seen reaction to mine. So, yeah, you know, that's how I had it. 2 rounds to go. I had it 96-94 in favour of Spence. So, yeah, for me, I think that obviously he was definitely coming on stronger in the later rounds. Spence, he definitely, you know, we didn't know what he was like in those later rounds because he'd only been, if I'm not mistaken, he'd only been past 9 rounds once in his whole career. So we didn't know what he'd be like in those championship rounds. And he showed us that he's still got a lot left in the tank at that point. Brook was obviously down in round 11. It was the, you know, the situation where he took a knee. Then the referee come over to him. He got up, but then I think the referee said, "Can you see?" And he said no. And that was it. So, or it might have been he actually volunteered the information to the referee and said, "I can't see out of my eye," which the referee was, I think the referee was very lenient towards him. I think Howard Foster did him quite a few favours, to be honest. He was in there trying to help him out a little bit, especially the 2 times where the tape come unloose, which was really nothing, and he made him go back to the corner and cut it off and get him a little bit of, you know, breathing time. I think it was actually, I mean, I liked to see that as much as I shouldn't because I'm supposed to be mutual, but I really like Kell Brook, and I've found out that I'm actually a bit of a Kell Brook fanboy as it goes. I really, really like Kell Brook a lot more than I thought I ever did. You know, it was hard to stay calm watching that fight, to be honest. But yeah, no, you know, the better man won on the night. I don't know if there was a rematch clause in the contract. I'm not too sure, but I think I would probably like to see a rematch. I think Kell Brook, you know, I don't know. We really don't know where his career is going to head from here, but I wish him all the very best. I really like Kell Brook, and it is what it is, to be honest. But I want to just mention one thing just before we move off of this subject. Straight after the fight, a load of Khan fans went onto Twitter laughing, saying this, saying that. And I kind of thought to myself, why are they doing that? What's the real need for it? And then I remembered that when Khan got knocked out, I think that Brook posted a picture of Khan on the floor after the Canelo fight and was kind of laughing at that. And obviously there's a lot of history there, not just between the fighters, but also between the fans. And it was kind of their revenge. So I kind of understood it in the end. But we did ask we put a poll out on Twitter, on our Twitter page, and we actually said, who do you think would win between Kell Brook and Amir Khan if they were to fight later this year or early next year? Who do you think wins? And the votes that we got, it came in with a result of 45% people giving it to Kell Brook and 55% to Amir Khan. So it just goes to show that fight there swayed opinion, because I think a lot of people before that fight probably thought that Kell Brook would win. And if Kell Brook won that fight, I think it would have almost solidified the fact that he would have won. You know, if anybody asked me before the fight, I'd have said that Kell Brook wins, but I think that he was a little bit bothered by the speed of Errol Spence, and obviously Errol Spence is nowhere near the speed of Amir Khan, so it makes it an interesting fight, and it also makes it an interesting fight that what's going to happen with his eye. Is he going to always be overly cautious to both eyes now? Is he going to lack a little bit of heart now? We just do not know. But my initial instinct was he didn't quit in the fight. I think he's very brave. I give him a lot of credit. Ayaz, just in one sentence, are we going to say that Brook quit on the, did he quit in that fight? Did he look for a way out? Did he quit or not?
I personally didn't think he quit. And the thing is, obviously, it's an eye injury. At the end of the day, it could make you blind. In the Golovkin fight, yeah, he said in an interview, a doctor told him, you go one more round with Golovkin, you're blind. You're going to go blind. Yeah.
No, go on.
He must have thought, yes, that's the same situation with my eye. If I go one more round, I'm going to go blind. So I reckon he didn't quit.
Yeah, I mean, Yeah, I mean, we as boxing fans and many other people, we expect, boxers to be prepared to die in the ring. It's not us inside the ring. If, an eyesight, it's different. I've heard this from a few different guys now, but people are saying that, like, you break a hand, you break your nose, you break your jaw, they can all be healed properly and fully, but when it comes to your eyes, you want to be living for like another 50 years or 30 or 40 years after your fight career's finished. So, to lose your sight for the rest of your life, just to not be known as a quitter amongst boxing fans, it's crazy. So, I'm with him there. I don't think he quit. I think he's got a lot of balls, even just to fight that fight there. Many people thought he wouldn't do it. Many people thought that he should be at 154. And also, I just want to say that Dave Caldwell, who's a guy that I respect a lot in boxing. He's a guy that's been on this show many times. He's our favourite trainer to talk to. I think you can go and look at how many times we spoke to him. I think that speaks for itself. But he actually said that Kell Brook at 154 is the sharpest fighter he's ever dealt with on the pads or in the gym or whatever. Amongst any fighter that he's ever dealt with on any weight class, he said that Kell Brook is unbelievable at 154. And, he knows what he's talking about, Dave Caldwell. So I'd like to see him perhaps at 154 if he doesn't take the rematch or the calm fight. It's still a big fight. But I want to ask you this, Ayaz, and I would like to ask Eddie Hearn this question as well. The last thing on this. If Khan was to fight Kell Brook, Eddie Hearn's always said that is a Wembley fight. That sells out Wembley. And I was never 100% sure that it would, in my honest opinion. But now, do you think that fight sells out Wembley?
I've always said that's a fight sells out Wembley. You know why? Because it's a big fight, right? Everyone from around the world will be setting their eyes on this fight. And I'll tell you something, right? This fight, when Khan versus Brook, sells anywhere. You name it. Wembley, Old Trafford, this stadium in Cardiff. This fight will sell Wembley. This fight is, in my opinion, I reckon it's the biggest fight in the welterweight division.
So you still think it sells out Wembley though, yeah?
Yes, I do. However, I think this fight will happen. It won't happen at 147. It happen at 151 in a catchweight.
Ooh, big call. But no, it may happen. We'll have to wait and see. But hopefully it happens. But I think he's lost a bit of credibility now. I think Eddie Hearn would admit that as well. I think that it's not as big as it was, which is a bit of a shame. It's, it is what it is. But no, that's that. There was another poll that we asked on Twitter. We said, value for money, ? Which pay-per-view out of the last few have been worth it in your opinion? Full card, not just the main event. So I put Brook Spence, Joshua Klitschko, Hay versus Bellew, or none. All of them were terrible. The winner was Joshua versus Klitschko with 65%. Brook versus Spence came in at 25%, and Hay versus Bellew at 6%. And 4% of people said that none of them were. They were all bad. So, yeah, Eddie Hearn would be happy with those results. I think the Joshua versus Klitschko card as a whole wasn't the greatest. We know that because obviously, the main event was fantastic, but the actual card had a few less fights than we first thought. It was also the dearest pay-per-view. It was £20 instead of the usual 17. Hay vs Bellew, if I remember correctly, had a decent little card on, and Brook vs Spence was quite a good card as well. So I put those two above it. But nonetheless, the actual main event, the best main event out of the lot, was obviously Joshua Klitschko by a mile. So is that so much better than the other two that it actually ends up winning the whole worth of pay-per-view out of the three options there? Maybe so. But I thought we'd bring that up anyway. But yeah, moving away from all that, we've done some polls, we've done some reviewing. That is all we've got to talk about from last week. We're now going to welcome guest number one. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former WBA lightweight world champion, Mr. Brandon Rios. Brandon, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back on.
Hey, it's nice having talked to you again, man. It's been a while.
Hey, it's my pleasure, my friend. So, Brandon, we spoke to you last August. There wasn't so much to talk about at the time, apart from the fact that you'd parted ways with Robert Garcia. You were training at the Goosen Gym. So I'm going to ask you simply, what has really gone on since we last spoke?
Nothing, just the training, that's it, just getting used to Ricky, the way he trains and everything, just getting used to new voice in the corner, and I think it's going on very well, and No, just been training. That's it.
And I remember when we last spoke, I asked you a little question about Victor Ortiz. I said, is that a possible fight that could happen? And you actually said, to be honest, I don't really want to talk about that fight. It's all I've got to say about him is negative stuff. I don't really want to say that. And then a few months later, it looked like the fight was actually going to happen. Obviously, it's now not happening. What actually happened with the whole situation, Brandon?
Honestly, I guess he's complaining about the pay. I don't know. I don't know what it was. It was just a bunch of bull, Like, I was taking a real short pay cut, and he was taking one too. So I don't know what it came down to be. I guess he tried to pat himself out on the negotiation or something. But other than that, I was very excited. I wanted that fight to happen because a lot of people wanted that fight, but it's not happening no more. So not only that, but I told my lawyer, I can't sit around and wait for this guy. If I sit around and wait for this guy, it's never gonna happen. So let's just move on and forget about him.
Yeah, fair enough. So, Brandon, you're fighting next weekend in California against Adrien Herrera. I'm going to be honest, I don't know too much about him. He's obviously fought some good up-and-coming prospects. His record suggests he can punch a little bit. He's got a good record, 32-6 with one draw. Do you know much about him at all, Brandon?
Not too much. I was watching some videos of him, and he is one of those. He is very I think he is very strong. But I think his record's 23 with 3 losses and 18 by knockout, something like that. I don't know if it's as accurate or not, but I think it's like that. Adrien Herrera, and he's just he's a tough opponent, man. He's a very tough guy. He's a very tough guy.
And on paper, it certainly would look like a tough opponent to come back to after having a 19-month layoff. Obviously, it's been by far the longest break you've had in your career. Do you believe in ring rust, Brandon? Is that on your mind at all?
You know what? I can't say in ring rust. I've been in the gym for 1 year straight, and I've been moving around. I've been sparring and everything, and I don't think there's such thing as ring rust. It's just the feel of just get back in the moment at that time. Maybe the first round or two, I'm going to be like, oh, shit, I'm back in, and then all of a sudden it'll go away. But I don't believe there's ring rust, and I don't think I should have ring rust because, like I said, I still been training. It'd be different if I wasn't training and doing nothing, just started training all of a sudden. But, no, I've been in the gym for a year, and then I've been working and keeping my weight down, and that's the main important thing right now that we have been doing is keeping the weight down and maintaining it and feeling strong as well still.
And you say there you've been training straight for a year. I know that obviously not all of that year would be like intense training camp. How many weeks of intense training camp have you done in that year, Brandon, or in the lead up to this fight?
I can say it's been not intense training, but of course, boxing is intense training no matter what you do. If you spar with anybody, it's still intense no matter what, because you're still getting hit, you're still receiving punches and everything. So, I can't say. I think training camp was really started is when we got this fight was gonna happen 3 months ago or something like that. They was talking about it, and I can say 3 or 2 months we've been really into intense training.
Yeah, fair enough. And providing you beat Herrera, Brandon, and we're not going to look too far ahead, obviously, but how many of these types of fights, I don't really want to call it a warm-up because he's pretty good for just a warm-up, but I know that you really want to be at world level, I'm guessing. So no disrespect to Herrera because he's a good fighter, obviously, but how many fights at this level, just, like a fringe kind of world level, do you want to have before you get right back at the top where you belong?
You know what? I'm not really thinking about this type of level guy, that type of level guy, because every fighters are dangerous. One punch can change a fight. One punch can knock you out. One punch can get get knocked out, pretty much. So I'm not really thinking like that. I'm just I'm going there and I'm thinking to go out there and perform the best I can perform, and the ability that I've been doing and everything that I've been working on with Ricky. And just go out there and show the world that I'm not done yet, and I can be back on top again if I put my mind to it and if I do everything right.
And to be honest, I wasn't going to ask you this, Brandon, but it's just come into my head right now. I know that Justin Bieber has done a little bit of training down at the Goose and Gym as well with Ricky. I heard a story that you guys were both in the ring together. What was that about? Did that actually happen?
Yeah, it was just moving around, nothing like crazy. I was just helping him out. That's nothing like. It was like part like a round. That's it. Just one round. We were just filling each other out. I wasn't going hard on him. He wasn't. I was practicing. I mostly what was doing practicing on my head movement and my letting punches and everything. Let him throw a lot of punches, hard punches. But what we was mainly doing, focusing on the head movement and everything, and just keeping away reach and stuff like that. Nothing crazy. So it wasn't like I went in there and kicked the shit out of his ass. He went in there and tried to beat the shit out of my ass. No, it wasn't like that. It was just like mainly more of me working on some of the things that we were practicing on.
So did Justin Bieber land a shot on you then?
Oh yeah, man. He landed a couple of shots, but that's part of boxing.
Does he hit hard, Brandon?
That's part of. I can't really say he hits hard because I've been hit by way bigger guys than him, but he got a little punch to him. But like I said, at the end of the day, it was nothing crazy. We wasn't going crazy or nothing. We was just practicing and just moving around and let him check out some anger too.
Yeah, absolutely. And you say you're not really thinking about levels at the moment. You're going to be taking one fight at a time. But have you got your eye on anybody at all in 147? Obviously, there's so many great fighters at that weight. There's so much for you there. Have you got your eye on anybody at all?
Honestly, I don't. Honestly, I really don't. I haven't really thought about that. And my mind and focus is not even thinking about any fighters like that, nothing right now. My mind is just to get back here June 11th and perform very well and get the victory and see what's next. So see what's on next on the next agenda. That was on my mind right now. I'm more concentrated on getting the win and looking great and see what's on the next agenda. So right now, the main focus is that what we're working on is just be ready, prepare ourselves the way we've been preparing ourselves, making the weight like we've been doing and maintaining it, and go out to perform the best I can perform and be ready for the next guy.
Yeah, well said, my friend, well said. So you should. Did you happen to catch the Errol Spence and Kell Brook fight at all, Brandon? If so, what did you think?
Yeah, I did. I actually really did. Errol Spence did really great. He looked really, really good. He looked really, really great. Kell Brook, of course, Kell Brook gave him a hard time. Of course, Kell Brooks he is a tremendous boxer. He does have that boxing ability and everything. But it was a pretty good fight, until he started working on the eye and got him in the eye, and when he got him in the eye, that was it. He couldn't take it no more. So it was a really good fight though, up until the knockdown.
Yeah, I thought so, definitely. A lot of people are really kind of, saying all sorts of things about Brook, even over here, especially in the US. A lot of people saying he quit in that fight. Do you're an experienced guy. Do you believe he quit in that fight or not?
Who knows? You know what I mean? We can't say he did, but people got to realize that he went. I don't know if it's overblown his fracture or what, but he went 11 rounds with an overblown that he fractured or something that he hurt with the good left hand fight. Yeah, I think Kell Brook, Errol Spence just work on that even more, and so you can't say he did, you can't say he didn't, but you know what? You can't take nothing away from Errol Spence either. Errol Spence is a monster. He looks really sharp, he looked really good on that fight too. So people are always gonna say something about something. They're never happy. They're not happy. If you said they like blue, they're like, no, fuck that, red's better. So they can never be happy. You know what I mean? People are just gonna be people no matter what.
Yeah, of course. I have to agree with you, to be honest. And another fun fight happening soon. I'm sure that you'll definitely be into this one. Canelo against Triple G. Fantastic fight. Who do you reckon wins that one, Brandon?
You know what? I gotta go with Canelo on this one. I think Canelo's gonna beat him because the fact that I love Triple G. I like the way he fights. I always go against him. I never go against Triple G. I always go against Canelo. But this time I go with Canelo because I stick with the roots. None of that. But I think Triple G might be. He's not too much active. You know what I mean? When he fought Brook, he didn't look so sharp. When he fought Dan Jacob, he didn't look so sharp. And Canelo looked fucking tremendous against Julio Cesar Chavez, even though Chavez didn't show up the way he's supposed to be, but that wasn't his fault. And Canelo looked really tremendous against him. And so I think I got to go with Canelo on this one.
Yeah, it's a really good fight. I think that you're right, though. I think Golovkin in his last couple fights hasn't really looked himself, whereas Canelo looks amazing at the moment. So it's hard to pick against Canelo for sure. And finally, Brandon, the last real thing I want to say to you. Last time we spoke, you told me that your UK fans probably buy more of your merchandise than any other place in the world. Are the UK fans still showing you that love?
Oh, yeah. You know, that's mainly that's where all my shit would go to the UK, which is awesome. I love it out there, man. I don't know. I wish I can experience one day, take my family out there, and we can go experience London or something, the UK or something like that. But, you know, one of these days we'll do that. We'll get the opportunity to do that. But, you know, I love the UK fans because they're, like, the most loudest and the most craziest, and that's the best that, you know, is awesome. Especially when they get behind the fighters. Oh, it's awesome, dude. That atmosphere is crazy.
Thank you very much for that. And there's actually a guy over here, Brandon. You probably don't know him, but you might surprise me. You might say you do know him. But if you were to fight this guy, it's a fantastic matchup of styles. He's actually from up the north a little bit, so he's not in London. But a guy called Sam Eggington. Do you know that name at all?
No, not really know that name.
I'll just tell you. He just recently stopped Paulie Malignaggi. I know that obviously Paulie's, you know, he's had better days, but he just recently stopped Paulie Malignaggi. He just won the European title, but I think he's ranked quite highly with some of the sanctioning bodies. But that'd be a brilliant fight. I don't know. Maybe you'll know his name soon enough. But that's a really good style.
Like I said, I have no problem fighting nobody. You know, I don't really care. I'll fight anybody. It doesn't bother me. And if it's a fantastic fight, why not? I love being a fantastic fight because I love to give the fans a fantastic fight. That's what I love to do. And if it's going to be one of those type of fights that's going to be like a war and fans going to love and appreciate it, of course, I would love to get in the ring with them.
Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people say that, but not many mean it more than you, and that is definitely true. Okay, listen, Brandon, thank you so much for giving me some of your time. It's always great speaking with you. Best of luck for next weekend, and we'll catch up sometime soon.
You too, my friend. Thank you very much.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the preview part. But before we get into that, we're going to go over to Ayaz with this week's latest news.
Robert Guerrero will face Omar Figueroa Jr. on July 15.
Yeah, Omar Figueroa, a guy that we've had on the show before. He's been a little bit frustrated. He's had a lot going on outside the ring. I think he's also had another kid. He's been out the ring for a long time. It's going to be good to see him back in the ring. He's still a guy that people forget about because of his inactivity. He's still a guy that's undefeated. He's still a guy that potentially is one of the best American fighters out there in terms of pound for pound. I really like Omar Figueroa. He's a really good guy, and this fight, it's a hard one back, even though that we know Robert Guerrero's definitely seen better days. He's nowhere near the fighter he was. He's a bit of a warrior. That's all he really gets credit for these days. But, it's a tough fight to come back to because he definitely will give it, he'll really give it a good go, Guerrero. So, it's a tough one to come back to, but we definitely wish Omar Figueroa all the very best, and I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Any other news, Ayaz?
Yes. Miguel Cotto will face Yoshiro Kamiga at the StubHub Center, Carson, California, for the vacant WBO Light Middleweight Championship on August 26th.
Yeah, this is one where Liam Williams obviously fought Liam Smith for the interim WBO title, and Liam Smith won the fight, and it was a terrible ending to the fight. We all know that, and he won the fight, but he didn't make the weight, so the title still was vacant. Whereas if he would have actually won that fight, or someone would have won that fight, or he would have actually made the weight properly, he would have been the interim WBO champion, and he would have probably been elevated to the WBO full world champion. But because that has all not happened, obviously he didn't make the weight, the fight ended the way it did, and all the rest of it, there's been enough time for an actual fight to be made for the full title. So obviously, as you said there, Miguel Cotto's taking on Yoshishiro Kamagai. Now, Kamagai is a guy that fought Robert Guerrero. I remember they had a real war. It was a really good fight. He's tough as anything, Kamagai. And yeah, it's funny that we just mentioned Guerrero there. But no, Kamagai is a guy that will come and give it his all. I think it's a really tough fight, to be honest, for Miguel Cotto at this part of his career. Kamagai has got 24 knockouts from 27 wins, and he's never been stopped. He's got 3 losses, but he's never been stopped. He's a really tough. So, yeah, it's interesting, that fight, really. I think it's going to be a lot closer than probably many people think it will be. But no, definitely a good fight to watch out for sure.
Mike Perez is ready to return when he takes on Tommy McCarthy in Belfast.
Yeah, Mike Perez, again, we've said it a few times on this show. His last fight was against Povetkin. He got absolutely banged out, but we don't know really what Povetkin was taking. Was he clean at that point? We've got no idea. But Mike Perez has been out the ring since 2015. He's supposed to have fought many times in the last few weeks in Ireland. He keeps on being, added to shows that he doesn't even end up fighting on. And now he's taking on Tommy McCarthy. Now, Tommy McCarthy is a guy that people were quite high on. People, were saying that he's going to be quite a good fighter. He's obviously a prospect. Okay, so Tommy McCarthy was 9-0 until he ran into Matty Askin, who we mentioned earlier. Matty Askin probably being the best domestically. And he lost unanimously to Matty Askin. And he was also down twice in the 4th round there, Tommy McCarthy. And he hasn't fought since that fight. It's either a great bit of matchmaking or a terrible bit of matchmaking there, but I suppose we'll have to see in hindsight. We'll have to do it in hindsight. But yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, to be honest, and hopefully it happens. It looks like it will be happening, and we'll have to just wait and see, I suppose.
Yep, that's it for the news.
Okay, Ayaz, thank you very much. Right, moving over to the previewing now. There's not too much to talk about, really, but we're going to start with a card happening tomorrow, Friday the 2nd of June 2017, starting over in Australia. It's the return of Lucas Browne. So Lucas Browne's obviously been out the ring for quite a while, since beating Ruslan Shagayev for the WBA world title, and then he got stripped of the belt for failing a test, and then apparently he passed the test, and apparently he failed another one. I really do not know what's going on. He denies absolutely everything. We will be speaking to Lucas Browne on this show very soon, probably next week or something, but yeah, I'm glad to see him back. I want to really know or get to the bottom of what's gone on here. There's been a lot of people failing tests. Again, the drug that he's been suspected of taking is not one that makes sense for him to take. He was stripped of the title. He feels like he's been hard done by. But nonetheless, he returns against a guy called Matthew Greer, who's a bit of a journeyman. I think Matthew Greer lost to Hughie Fury by stoppage, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been points, but I'm sure he definitely fought Hughie Fury. I remember the name. So Matthew Greer has a record of 16-20. Lucas Browne 24-0. It's only a 6-rounder there, and that one's at the Club Punch Bowl in New South Wales, Australia. All the very best of luck to Big Daddy Brown. Moving over now to the Brentwood Centre, also happening tomorrow night in Brentwood, Essex, United Kingdom. Top of the bill, Bradley Skeet, friend of the show. We had him on last week's show. He defends his British welterweight title against Shane Singleton. Bradley Skeet 25-1, Shane Singleton 23-1 with 1 draw. All the very best to our friend Bradley Skeet. Also on the bill, set up to be a bit of a war. It's a rematch between Lee Markham 17-3 with 1 draw and Joe Mullender 9-2. This one's for the English middleweight title, the belt that Lee Markham holds. Harley Ben gets out in his second pro contest. His opponent yet to be announced. It's a 4-rounder at super middleweight there. Also on the bill, Charlie Duffield gets back in the ring. He's been out since losing to that journeyman. I remember being at York Hall for that one. That was a crazy fight. So we wish him all the very best. Champagne Charlie Driscoll gets on the bill as well. He's in his 5th professional contest. His opponent yet to be announced as well. Sanjeev Sahota gets gets out again. He was on the bill a couple weeks ago at the Copper Box on the Gervonta Davis undercard. His record at the moment 7-0. His opponent yet to be announced. And also Boy Jones Jr. gets out again. His opponent yet to be announced. His record 12-1 with 1 draw. Moving over now to the 2300 Arena. I think that's the name of it, in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, United States of America. One fight to mention over here: Hammerin Hank Lundy, 27-6 with 1 draw. He's in an 8-rounder at lightweight, his preferred weight, against Daniel Evangelista Jr., who has a record of 20-7 with 2 draws. We'll be talking to Hank Lundy very shortly, and we're going to save most of the talk for this fight till then, but we wish Hank Lundy the very best in this fight. Moving over now to Canada. There's a fight happening at the Bell Centre in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. Adonis Stevenson, 28-1, putting his WBC World Light Heavyweight title on the line against Andre Fonfara, 29-4. Fonfara coming off that win over Chad Dawson, a man that Adonis Stevenson iced for the belts quite a while back now, actually. But Adonis Stevenson really has been known as Adonis Chickinson. He's been ducking a few people, but nonetheless, he's a good fighter. He's an exciting fighter, and we will be looking at that fight with close attention. Also on the bill, Alida Alvarez, a really good fighter, a man that Adonis Stevenson paid step-aside money to be able to actually take on next in line, which was Shawnee Monaghan, and then that fight didn't happen for whatever reason, so it's a rematch with Fonfara. But Alida Alvarez is a promising prospect. His record 22-0. He takes on former world champion Jean Pascal, who has a record of 31-4 with 1 draw. That's a brilliant fight. I'm really looking forward to that one. That is fight of the weekend for me, and that one is also for the WBC Silver Light Heavyweight title. Also on that bill, heavyweight Olympian Oscar Rivas is on the bill as well. His record 20-0. His opponent yet to be announced. Moving over now to Russia. One fight really to mention over here. A man called Dmitry Kudryashov, who has a record of 20-1, takes on Olan this is going to be hard. Olan Rawaju Dorodola, who has a record of 25-3. This one's for the WBC Silver Cruiserweight title. Dmitry Kudryashov is a man with a record of 20-1, as I said. 20 of those fights that he's had, 20 of those wins have all come by knockout, okay? And the one loss was also a knockout. So every single fight as a pro that Kudryashov's been in has been a knockout. And that knockout was to this guy, Dorodula, in 2015 in November. He was knocked out in the second round. He won the first round on all 3 judges' scorecards, but was knocked out in the second round. So this is it's the highly anticipated rematch. Can he knock Dorodola out and get his career back on track? Can he right the wrong? We're going to have to wait and see. But that's it from the Sports Palace in Russia, somewhere in Russia that I cannot pronounce. Moving over now to the Lagoon Leisure Centre in Paisley, Scotland. 1 or 2 fights to mention on this bill. Friend of the show, Frankie Gavin, gets out again. He's in an 8-rounder at welterweight. His opponent yet to be announced. His record at the moment 24-3. And that is really it for the previewing. We've always for it as quick as possible. There's really not much action this weekend, but we wish our friends all the very best of luck, of course. And now to wrap up part 2, and just before we end the show, there's one last thing to do as always, and it's of course to welcome guest number 2. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the former challenger for the WBO World Super Lightweight title, Mr. Hank Lundy. Hank, welcome to the show. It's great to have you back on.
Oh man, thanks for having me. All love, man.
All love, for sure. So, Hank, we last spoke to you quite a while back now. It was a couple of weeks before your last fight, which was against John Delpadang, which was actually 5 months ago today. We knew that the guy could hit hard. We knew that, he was a bit of a banger going into the fight. His power didn't really play no part in the fight. You beat him unanimously over 12 rounds, and very wide too. What did you make of that fight, Hank?
Oh, man, I just wanted to test myself coming back, from my surgery, and to see if Hammerin Hank was 100%. It was a young, hungry warrior, tough guy, and we went in there, man, went to war. It wasn't no plan, and I found out what Hammerin Hank is really all about. Through the injury, I came back. I'm 110% strong now, man.
So Hank, on to obviously the next one. You're fighting on Friday at it's called the 2300 Arena, right?
Yes.
The 2300 Arena. So it's basically becoming it's coming quite a good boxing venue. It almost in some ways seems to have taken over a little bit from the Blue Horizon, which is obviously a place you fought at a few times as well.
Yeah, most definitely. You know, being as though the Blue Horizon shut down, this became the number one spot. And, you know, the fighters in Philly and all over, man, we putting on shows, you know, and I'm happy and I'm excited to be fighting here. I fought there as an amateur, but as a pro, this is big, man. I'm ready to shut the city down, man.
Yeah, and I was just going to say there, it's, as I say, it's took over a little bit from the Blue Horizon, so to speak, in recent years, and, you know, there's been many fights there, especially with Philadelphia-based fighters. You haven't fought in your hometown for over 7 years, so I was really just going to ask you, are you happy to be fighting in your backyard again, Hank?
Oh, most definitely. You know, I get to come home, you know, and put on a good show, you know. Like, I'm going to put it like this. If I see a shot, and it's open for me to knock the guy out, he's going bye-bye. I'm not going to sit around and play around with nobody because, like I said, one punch changed the fight. I'm going in there and going to work. I train hard because being as though you fight in your hometown, you have to train a little bit harder. And we ready.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember when we last spoke, Hank, you were frustrated a little bit because you were telling me, you were saying to me, Joey, I'm a different fighter at lightweight, but no one wants to fight me there, so I've got to fight at 140 where I'm not 100% comfortable. Your last fight, obviously, as you said there, you were coming off the injury. It was at lightweight. So this is one, again, that's at lightweight. So are you feeling good back down at 135, Hank, where I believe you truly belong there?
Yeah, I feel super strong, man. I'm ready physically and mentally, man. I'm ready, you know. I'm about to take it over at lightweight, man. I'm about to actually, you know, go at another run at this world title, you know. They gave me one at 140, you know, the bigger guy, Terrence Crawford. I went to work, and I felt as though I'd have got past that fifth round. He'd have been in trouble. I could have beat him. But, you know, I made a mistake. He capitalized it off it, and that was that, you know. And I'm looking forward to getting there with him again. Hopefully I win this world title at 35, and I can take that belt up and go fight him at 140 again.
Yeah, but he's definitely a guy that's looking good at the moment. Obviously, looming to possibly moving up to 147. But yeah, maybe. Now you're taking on a man by the name of Daniel Evangelista. I think I'm saying that right. I don't know too much about him, Hank, if I'm honest. He's 20-7 with 2 draws. He's actually fought in the state of Pennsylvania more recently than yourself. Do you know much about him, Hank?
No. You know, I know he's a come forward guy. You know, he likes to box a little bit. But, you know, at the end of the day, Hank Lundy been in there with everybody. You know, so I had all different types of sparring preparing for this fight. So, you know, I'm not, you know, taking this guy lightly or sleeping on him. You know, it just, when it's time to go in that ring, man, I'm going to work. He got to worry about a beast.
And Hank, I want to ask you, at 135, the 2 top guys, pretty much everybody would say that the 2 top guys are Mikey Garcia and Jorge Linares. If those guys were to fight, which it's looking like it may happen, who do you reckon would win that one?
To be truthful, I give it to Linares, more skillful guy, a veteran. I give it to Linares, you know, one of the guys that I've been chasing, you know, for years too and wanting to fight. You know, so I give it to him.
Yeah, definitely a great fight if that does happen. And the other champs at 135, obviously I just mentioned there Linares and Garcia. Then there's obviously Robert Easter Jr., which if I'm not mistaken is a good friend of yours. And I'm taking you guys probably wouldn't fight if you're really good friends. And the only other guy it leaves is Terry Flanagan. That's obviously a great fight. That would be perfect over in the UK, especially giving you a chance to come and fight over here, which I know you'd like to do. Yeah, so is the Robert Easter Jr. fight out of the question because of friendship, or?
Oh, no, hell no. He got a world title, something I want, you know, so let's get it. You know, like I said, man, I'm a fight or 2 fights away from fighting for a world title at 135. I'm one of the big names down there at 135, so, you know, if they give me the chance, I want the fight. I want all the champs, you know. I'm not one of these guys that, just been here to fight and then put in front of nobody. I'm one of the top guys at 135. Give me any one of the champs at 35. I guarantee I'll beat him.
And obviously, we know that, Robert Easter Jr. is obviously closely linked with Adrien Broner. You and Adrien Broner, we all knew that you guys were friends. Apparently, something happened where you're now not friends. Can you go into that at all for us?
Oh, yeah. I was at Cincinnati, at a fight down there. And, he walked me out. But in the crowd, I had real friends in Philly, One of them, my strength and conditioning trainer. And he was making fun, clowning around, And one thing about me, man, if I'm cool with you, I'm real with you 24/7. I don't play that behind the back, talking shit, That ain't Hank Lundy. So I got the word. I called him, and I told him to meet up with me. He didn't want to meet up with me. He said he hit me on the phone or on Instagram. You being sensitive, man. It's all jokes. I'm a realster, man. I'm from Philly. I don't play around like that. So like I told him, and he knows. You know what? Since that, I'm the next to fight you. I done help Sean Porter get ready to beat you. I done help Adrien Linares. Now the only person that want to step in the ring and get the job done is Hank Lundy. Step up. If you fight Mikey Garcia, if you don't, I'm next in line. Let's go. I come to 147.
So just if we just rewind a minute there. So something happened with your strength and conditioning trainer, which initiated some sort of issue with Adrien Broner. Is that right?
Well, the fight was on Facebook Live. I think he had it on Facebook Live, and he was just clowning around, talking bad, making jokes, and I don't get down like that. You know what I mean? If Hank Lundy was like that, there's a lot of stuff I could say that I could call you out on, but I'm a real dude at the end of the day. So, when you down, I'm not going to kick you. I'm going to put it like that, and you know what I'm talking about.
Okay, we'll leave that there. Moving over to something else now, Hank. You may or may not have seen the fight. It just happened, obviously, last weekend. Did you happen to catch the Brook and Errol Spence fight?
Oh, yeah, I watched it, man. A hell of a fight. What
did you make of it?
Oh, man, Errol Spence, he showed up and showed out. A lot of people ain't give him a chance, because Brook, the bigger guy, bigger welterweight. But, Brook, he hung in there. And he showed his true colors, and he showed what it is to be a true champion. To go over the seas, like a guy myself. I'm always on the road fighting, and he showed up and showed out. A lot of love and respect to Errol Spence.
Yeah, I have to agree with that 100%. And finally, Hank, is there any other fights you've watched lately, or any fights that's coming up that you want to give an opinion on at all before we let you go?
Oh, man, I'm watching everybody, especially at lightweight 140. They got some good talent out there. But like I said, man, Hank Lundy is one of the key guys in his boxing world, It ain't a show if Hank Lundy ain't in it, One thing about it, I'm always putting on a show. Never been in a dog fight, and I'm willing to fight anybody, But it got to be worth my risk and worth my while, because at the end of the day, Hank Lundy is a big name in the boxing game, so I'm like this. At the end of the day, I won all the world titles at 135. If at 135, at 142, throw your hats in there too, we can get it. And I ain't too shy about, 147.
Okay, listen, Hank, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. You know that yourself. Thanks for your time. Best of luck on Friday, and we'll catch up sometime after.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the love and the support. And I'm going to leave it like this. Hammerin Hank coming to a city and town near you. It's hammer time.
Okay, and this concludes another episode of the BoxHard Podcast. It's been episode 85. A big thank you to our two guests on this week's show, Mr. Brandon Rios and Hammerin Hank Lundy. A big shout out on Twitter to our friend Ed Messenger as well. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Summer has been Ayaz Summer. Remember, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BoxHard Podcast. We'll be back next week with another big show as per usual. Until next time, take care.